Hello, my quilting family. I've been asked to do a studio tour of where I sew and make quilts. My room is pretty small. It's 12 feet by 8.5 feet wide. So I'm not in a big space. I might be bigger than some, but probably smaller than a lot of you. So we're going to cover wall by wall as to what's going on here. Now we've set the room up so it is in work condition, not, you know, show condition. So there's quite a bit of stuff gets moved out of here when it's in show condition. First place we're going to start is my tools. This is where my husband put up pegboard and, you know, all the little holders and stuff. I probably got stuff in here that I don't use quite so often, but I've got lots of, you know, things that I'm hanging on to or to display because I'm using them frequently, like this ruler here and my, you know, the squaring up ruler and the picker up off the floor. That's always useful, especially when it falls down into a crevice you can't find. So, and I try and keep this as orderly as possible. And at the end of the day, I try and make sure all my tools are at least picked up and put back up here for the next day. So then we're going to move to where I actually sit and sew. So this is my sewing machine and the chair that I sit on. And so I have a lot of little sewing projects that I have. I've been doing lots of little 4 patches from our scraps. This box holds all the stuff we're working on for our Churn Dash case study. And you can see I've made quite a dent in here already. And I've got stuff laid out for future ideas and whatnot. This is my high-tech garbage can. And I have one of those bobbin rings, but I put a coffee cup in there so that it can hold all my tools that I need in reach. The stuff I'm going to use the most often or frequently use. So like every time I change a bobbin, I clean up my little bobbin area or whatever. And I also have water. Okay, so then here is my cutting table. And a lot of the camera equipment that we deal with to make our shows stays here. It lives on my cutting table. When I have virtual sew dates with friends, I put a bin on top of here and a laptop, and then all that stuff gets pushed into a corner. But this is pretty much my cutting surface and my where we cut stuff. Normally this window is open and my phone hangs off the window closure. So it's all, everything is kind of handy here. And here's a visitor chair. Once COVID is over, maybe we'll be allowed to have visitors and sew dates. Now this is tubs full of charity quilts in the bottom. A string box where I keep all my strings of my fabric so I can make string blocks out of this. This is my Area 51, my UFOs. This is the next quilt I'm going to pin baste. And these are the pineapple charity blocks you saw earlier. So this is what I have. Behind me, let's start from the front. Here, I'll move this out of the way for a bit so you can see what's going on. Behind me, I have my fabric shelves. And this only covers the white, the black, and the gray. And I store my colors, my fabric by color. And I have all my flannel in one spot up here. All my non-width of fabric 2.5-inch strips are up here. So basically this is where I keep my 2.5-inch scraps. My pressing mat, my freezer paper is all there. And in these little shoe boxes here, this is where I have my 2.5-inch, oh, it's dusty, 2.5-inch strips that I've cut from my fabric. And I also have things like my pins and, you know, whatnot, my bobbin case. Things that I'm still thinking about and trying to work out how I'm going to do. And I also keep a box of 2-inch and 1.5-inch strips of white. handy because I'm using that a lot. So now underneath we have my Crumb Box, which I have no crumbs anymore because I've used them in a paper piecing project. I have extra 10-inch squares that once I run out of backing, that's what I use, is 10-inch squares. Now this box is something from Krista Mosier, where she calls her pattern Many Morsels. I've done little triangles of string piecing on the back of phone book paper. So that at some point will be a future quilt. Okay, let me just move this out of the way. Yeah, it's a small room. This is where I keep my white scraps and where I keep my white 2.5-inch strips. So I've got a few here, so I get to play quite often. And then these are bigger pieces that need to be cut into chunks. And again, below. This is a project. It's from the anthology book where I made all the blocks of the anthology quilt along, and I was going to sew them into a quilt at some point, but I haven't got to sewing them into a quilt. And I made a few extra pieces because I have a few ideas for other lap quilts. This is where I keep all my embroidery cotton in 2 boxes. And right now I only have 5 boxes of scraps that are colored black, blue, and odds and sods. So I've been really hitting those, getting those out, moved out and used. And of course, a little ironing board when I have to take an ironing project out to the living room. Okay. Now, we have our 1.5-inch strips. Both, I've separated them between width of fabric, and that means selvage to selvage, and all part strips. And a 2-inch width of fabric strip. I also have all my hand sewing blocks here. That it's basically a quilt I'm working on. And here's one that's called Castle Wall. I'm going to get to hand sew some of those, but not right this minute. The next shelf is The World Runs on Granola Bars and Coffee. The next shelf is all my backings, because I do have backings now. And I have one box with 2.5-inch squares and 2.5 by 4-inch, 2.5 by 4.5-inch squares. So I'm getting ready to do a scrappy log cabin. So it's whatever fits in there goes in there, and that'll get me started. Now here's where we start. Let me just get this out of the way. We start on the colors. Like all of this is colors, and they also have the coordinating 2.5-inch strip boxes in between. So there you can see the shoe boxes of the green and the blue and the purple and pink and all this stuff. They all have their coordinating strip boxes. So, and underneath is more string blocks, and I don't know if you can see them. These are string blocks that are 6.5 inches that I sewed together without any paper or anything. So they're like that on the back. Pressed flat and waiting for ideas to come, and I've got a few ideas. Here's some more. This is my idea bucket. This is where I write down all my ideas and I throw them in here. And the last box is string blocks that are 10 inches. So I have ideas on what I'm going to use with those as well. Okay, we have the ironing station where I have my iron, my clapper, a good ironing board, and I also now have switched over to vinegar water in a spray bottle. So the vinegar is 1 to 4. So you put 1 cup of vinegar to 4 cups of water. And it takes out wrinkles really fast. So last, not quite last, is the closet. So here's where we have some long-term projects and new projects mixed up. Here's where I'm storing all my churn dash blocks from our case study. This is a long-term project. Well, here's a bottle of spray starch for the ironing station. I also love a piano keyboarder, so I always have a big roll of this stuff on hand, so I can just put like a scrappy piano keyboarder. Okay, this is my bag for plastic bags. Those little bags. But here, I'll pull out. This is a roll I made. It's kind of a huge roll, but if you do like a large queen size quilt or a few twins, all of a sudden this is gone. You could also use this for a coin quilt. So, and below that is more plastic bags. Now, I keep my cones of thread here in this box. And I keep all my English paper piecing supplies in here. And I prefer the little templates where you make the card, you put cardboard in, and you just press out a little thing. So all my EPP stuff is here, English paper piecing. And just odds and sods of notions and ribbon and elastics and whatnot are in here. And these you get from a big box store. Like you're not. So I have my orphan blocks. All of them fit still into the drawer. And then I have my Ohio Star blocks that I'm waiting to make a quilt for a dear friend and his wife. Then we have thread. And as you can tell, I love Aurifil thread. In each of these 2 drawers full of thread, you can hold up to 8 or 4 boxes in each drawer. And normally I have full boxes, but it's been a long pandemic, so I'm getting low on thread now. So here's all my colored stuff. And paper. I prefer onion skin paper to string piece on. And this is where I keep my pins for pin basting and weights when I need stuff for weights. Extra pins. Excuse me while I move. Now here I have a bunch of log cabin blocks that are made. Log cabin blocks that are made with 1.5 inch strips. So, and I think I've got 2 buckets of those. And then I have more extension cords. Now I have my quilting books in here. And as you can see, I don't have a lot of quilting books. I try not to order too many. Bobbin case for my machine. A mini iron for applique. Another press for English paper piecing. I even found my mom's templates for her sunbonnet Sue and other patterns that she made in her life. I have those hiding in here. Of course, more of the churn dash case study. I have, oh, this came undone. Okay. So I try to organize my buckets for my sewing room so that they stay kind of tidy and you can see what's in there. So I put coffee cups in here just to hold the items upright. If you can get a good shot of that. So I can see where my glasses are and all this stuff. This I find is a really useful little tool. It's a kid's toy. It's a kid's toy. And it's a kaleidoscope. So if you're wondering how a fabric is going to look together on a quilt, you can just use one of these and lay out all your fabric on a table and then take a look at it through the end of that kaleidoscope. So I have most of other tools that I find useful. I have all my interfacing and another little travel heat pad, and a skirt ruler, and other odds and sods, some ribbon. I have my Pounce papers, my Pounce pad, and my templates for hand quilting. And I've also now started collecting the the 4 patches for the 1.5 inch strips, the 2 inch strips that are going to measure out at 3.5 inches, and then my other one, the 4.5 inch. This is just from the Churn Dash case study, and of course my pinwheels. So up top, I have what's called, lovingly, Frankenbatting. This is where I store all my scraps of batting, and I sew them together, and we're going to do a tutorial on how to do the Frankenbatting. But I don't throw a lot of stuff away. And the other stuff up here is kind of, you know, empty boxes of this and that, so. And just around the corner here, right around the corner here, I keep my thread that I use. These are all airfill threads that are in use that I'm moving through. And I've got some King Tut Superior thread that is just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. I couldn't believe the color in there. Certainly hope you can see that. But I keep them separate. I have 80 weight thread from Wonderfill that I use in English paper piecing projects, because this thread is so fine it just disappears in the fabric. And I also have 100 weight thread that's a polyester thread, that if I want to do something really tiny and really intricate and sewing pieces together, this is what I use. So that's pretty much it. I do have a little thing for my daughter up there that's cross stitch, that she made a vintage sewing machine, because I love my vintage machines. So anyways, that's it. That is my sewing room. It's tiny, it's packed full of stuff, and sometimes it's very cluttered, but it's fun to be in here. I really am so glad that you decided to tune in again today, and I want to thank you for coming, and I hope to see you again real soon. Bye! If you have questions about what you saw in this video, or you have ideas for content or something you want to see us do, please put those comments in the description below. But also, while you're there, like, share, and subscribe with your friends. That would really help us out. Okay, I want to thank you and have a great day.